Ideal spots for urban explorers.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Titanic. I'm your host, Alexa. On this channel, we talk a lot about the coolest places to visit in nature, but sometimes the best places to visit are right in town. If you're new here, make sure that you're subscribed and ring the bell so that you never miss an upload. Before we get into today's video, let's try some trivia. Can anyone watching guess what instrument I play? That answer coming up later.
Ross Island, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, India. What remains of the Paris of the East is now overgrown, but once this island was a flourishing British residential community. It contained bakeries, gardens, dance halls, homes, clubs, and pools until 1941, when there was an earthquake and the island was invaded by the Japanese. Finally, in 1979, the island was given back to the Indian Navy, who set up a small base. The island is popular with tour groups, so if you get there, you won't necessarily be alone, but it is still super cool to explore. Mirny Diamond Mine, Eastern Siberia, Russia. To explore this spot needs some proper safety gear and knowledge on abandoned mines, so explorers beware. The Mirny Diamond Mine is the second largest man-made hole in history and was initiated by Stalin to keep up with the Soviet Union's increasing demand for industrial diamonds. The mine is now abandoned as digging deeper became too risky. SS Airfield Shipwreck, Sydney, Australia. The SS Airfield was launched in 1911 from the UK and served a busy life as a steam collier in Australia, had a short stint transporting supplies in World War II, then returned to the land down under to continue as a steam collier until it was decommissioned in 1972. It was just left to float around Homebush Bay after its superstructure was reclaimed and scrapped, leaving just the hull to bob around.
The most standout feature is the forest that has overtaken this steel island. The overgrown shipwreck is a treed oasis in the middle of the bay, perfect to explore.
Central Railroad of New Jersey Terminal, Jersey City, USA. The Central Railroad Terminal of New Jersey was in operation from 1889 to 1967 as a major transportation center for immigrants arriving in America. The Romanesque building sits on the edge of the Hudson River and still includes forecourts, station platforms, tracks, and rail cars. The interior is no longer accessible due to damage from Hurricane Sandy in 2012, but still makes a great urban exploration to add onto your trip to the Statue of Liberty because it's right near the Ellis Island ferry's departure. Vasile Gaby, Ethiopia. Vasile Gaby was a fortress city in the 16th and 17th centuries, containing great options for an urban explorer to run wild. It contains palaces, castles, a library, and churches surrounded by an impenetrable high wall. It was the residence of the Ethiopian Emperor Fasilides and was the center of the Ethiopian government until 1864. The site took a knock due to mishandled conservation, but UNESCO has been handling repairs and conservation work since the 1990s, so the site is finally being given some much-needed TLC. Pripyat, Ukraine. Pripyat was established in 1970 to serve as a Soviet nuclear city for the residential workers of Chernobyl nuclear power plant.
Just 16 years later, in 1986, the entire town had to be evacuated after the Chernobyl disaster. It's now a very popular, if radioactively risky, tourist destination.
Haladovo Palace Hotel, Croatia. In 1971, the Haladovo Palace Hotel opened its doors on a small island. It was a game changer for the small islands attracting tourists, and in 1972, expansion started with investment from the founder of Penthouse magazine, who expanded the property to the tune of $45 million. He renamed it Penthouse Adriatic Club Casino. Unfortunately, its heyday ended in the 1990s when the Yugoslav wars began and tourism interest in the area greatly declined. Today, the abandoned ruins of the hotel capture the imagination of urban explorers who revel in its beautiful mid-century style. Bedyrczy Castle, Ukraine. This castle was the home of a Polish military commander in the 17th century. It was a marvel at the time, boasting Italian architecture and specially designed defenses by the French Guillaume de Beauplain. Its extensive art and weapons collection were impressive and hosted balls for European royalty regularly. It changed hands in the 1800s, and through poor maintenance, it was vandalized and fell into disrepair. It was later used as a sanatorium for tuberculosis patients. In 1956, a fire ravaged demolished the castle, leaving it uninhabitable. Since 1997, parts of it have been restored to host events and art shows, but there is still plenty more to explore. The catacombs, Rome. Under Rome runs hundreds of miles of burial tunnels containing nearly 2,000-year-old cemeteries. The Christian sections remain largely unexplored as they are owned by the Vatican, and entry is very limited because they do contain bodies, popes, and saints.
The reason that these catacombs are such an explorer's dream is that the Holy Grail itself is said to be hidden beneath the Basilica of St. Lawrence.
Urban explorers, hungry for the challenge, can try and crack this age-old mystery. Ryugyong Hotel, North Korea. Enter a modern challenge for the urban explorer to tackle in a country not exactly known for being tourist-friendly, North Korea.
The glass pyramid is 105 stories tall and was meant to serve as a hotel, but has been abandoned for 16 years. In 2008, the facade was completed, but rumor has it that the interior hasn't been touched.
The Hotel DeSoto, Tequendama Falls, Colombia. This beautiful hotel opened its doors in 1928 and thrived up until tourists heard that there was contaminated water in the area, and then they quickly lost interest. The hotel stopped trading in the early 1990s and was converted into a museum in 2013. Many claim the site is actually haunted, which makes it even more appealing for the urban explorer. New Bedford Orpheum, Massachusetts, USA. A firm favorite is this abandoned theater that was last used in 1962. It opened in 1912 and used to seat 1,500 people. When interest in live shows dwindled, it was converted into a cinema, and that finally closed in the late 50s. The building is privately owned, and whether the last update still stands is unclear, but it was said to house a supermarket in the back while the rest of the building stood empty. Bielitz-Heilstätten Hospital, Germany. An urban explorer's dream comes true at the Bielitz-Heilstätten Hospital in Germany. This derelict hospital was built in the late 1800s, and it's the place where Adolf Hitler recovered from a leg wound. It served as a field hospital during the First and Second World War, and it was certainly the perfect setting for the movie The Pianist. The place was left unguarded until 2005, so plenty of creepy, disturbing photographs were snapped. Many say it's more like a tourist destination now, but some parts of the hospital are still in use. Luga Monument, Bulgaria. Also called Bulgaria's UFO, this abandoned monument sits in the Bulgarian mountains and used to be the Bulgarian Communist Party headquarters. The monument was erected to commemorate socialist communism, but was abandoned in 1989 when the government fell from power. Urban explorers loved heading here, but the last update stated that every nook and cranny that one could possibly enter has been sealed shut. Has that really ever stopped anyone before, though? Naval Museum Complex, Balaklava, southern Ukraine.
In Crimea lies an old submarine docking facility. Now, this one isn't completely abandoned, which kind of makes it creepier because who would want to hang out in such a scary spot?
It was converted into a museum, but as of 2014, was meant to be restored back to a submarine base. When the Soviet Union fell, this top-secret facility was decommissioned. The area can withstand a nuclear strike and consists of a labyrinth of tunnels and secret rooms, all constructed of concrete and steel. The Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You have two options when exploring this venue. You can do what the regular people do and head there Monday to Friday between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Or you can don your flashlights and see what you can discover in your own time. But we can't guarantee what'll happen if you get caught. Built in 1829, this prison inspired the design of a further 300 prisons. Some of the most famous prisoners here include Willie Sutton and Al Capone. Humberstone, Chile. This is an urban explorer's paradise, and you'll have as much fun heading to this destination as you will exploring it. It's a former English saltpeter mining town situated in the Atacama Desert. When synthetic nitrate was invented, the need for saltpeter fell away, and these facilities were all closed. People left in a hurry, and the little town remains frozen in time. It was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2005. Sorrento Mill, Sorrento, Italy. This abandoned mill is nestled in a deep canyon close to Naples in Italy, and nature has slowly taken over the building. The last time this mill was in use was 1866, and it's a great combination of beautiful and eerie, and has been there for around 700 years. The mill became inactive once Tasso Square was built because it isolated the mill from the sea. increasing humidity, which was not ideal for making flour. The building was abandoned in the 1940s. Bodie Ghost Town, California. This little town used to be home to 10,000 people in the late 1870s because of the gold resources that the lands had to offer. The empty buildings left behind include saloons, a red light district, homes, and shops. If you feel a need to head to this area, make sure the only thing you take with you are your photographs, because rumor has it, anyone who has lifted a small piece of anything has been cursed forever with bad luck. Whalers Bay, Deception Island, Antarctica. Steampunk fans will love this destination where you feel like you're stepping back in time. A time of brass, metals, dials, and knobs, and all the steam-powered technology to keep your imagination fired up. This abandoned whaling and research station was abandoned several times between 1931 and 1969 due to mudslides or volcanic eruptions. Even if you're not much of an urban explorer, there are hot springs to indulge in and an old hangar, which makes the perfect backdrop for some incredible photographs. Packard Automotive Plant, Michigan. Urban explorers love heading to this spot, once owned by the Packard Motor Car Company, where they used to produce luxury cars. Built in 1903 and closed in 1958, it used to be the most modern automobile manufacturing facility in the world. After its closure, other businesses moved in, and it was still functioning till the 90s. Raves and techno parties followed that, and in 2010, the last tenant left the building. A lot of the building has already been looted, but now urban explorers and graffiti artists still enjoy it. The Freedom Tunnel, New York City. Built by Robert Moses in the 1930s, the tunnel, located on the West Side Line under Riverside Park in Manhattan, had freight trains running through until 1980. With the increase of cars and trucks on the road, the tunnel was abandoned. The tunnel got a much-needed paint job by graffiti artist Chris Freedom Pape.
The tunnel served as home for many people over the years, where they lived rent-free and by their own rules, which kind of meant they didn't have any. At one point, over 100 people lived there.
Graffiti artists and urban explorers love this place, but are often removed by security.
Those are a ton of really cool places so far, and we still have one more to go. But I think that I owe you guys some trivia. I actually play two instruments, the piano and the clarinet. But what are your favorite instruments? Let me know in the comments down below.
1. Car Cemetery, Châtillon, Belgium. Located in Wallonia Municipality in the province of Luxembourg in Belgium, this car graveyard is a great place to explore some vintage vehicles that have been left behind since the Second World War. It's believed it was too expensive for United States servicemen to ship their cars home, so they instead left them in this graveyard. Over the years, more and more vehicles have been added, all with nature slowly taking over.